What's up, YouTube? Today we're going to be looking at Tinkaton once again, but for one main reason, and that reason is that Bulldoze, that garbage 1 damage per energy move, somehow makes Tinkaton better. Now, bear with me here, it's for some reason when it sims in the 0s, 1s, and 2s, it has a better win-loss record against the meta with Bulldoze. Now, why might that be? One, it gives it the cheapest charge move that it has, and it can become a bait move, and it also has the potential to lower your opponent's defense. Two, Fairy is resisted on steel, it's resisted on poison, and it's resisted on fire. Now, what hits all of those for super effective damage? Ground. So it's a perfect coverage move in that sense. Obviously, there are Pokemon like Talonflame, because it's a fire flying, that it will resist both, because it double resists on the flying, but is single super effective on the fire, so it ends up being a net single resistance. That being said, overall, it has a great coverage in the meta, so as long as you cover that Talonflame weakness, you should be good. So for that reason, we're running Quagsire on the lead. We've got Drapion as a safe swap to bait out the grounds and then punish them with Aqua Tail. And then we've got Quagsire that can clean them up if we don't flip switch, and then Tinkaton to roam frame the back. So without further ado, let's hop into some battles. Alright, first lead. We've got a Tinkaton in the lead. Look at that. Okay, so this is actually a great matchup because we have super effective mud shots, and these Aqua Tails are going to come fast. But my opponent is actually staying in this matchup, so something is clearly wrong with their team. They have an ABA weakness to the Quagsire most likely, so we're definitely just going to stay in this matchup and play it out. I call bait hoping they don't full send the play rough, but they actually do. However, that does allow me to overfarm, play to the CMP tie with a potential Bulldoze, and it was a CMP tie, which means my opponent is also running Bulldoze. So we are able to grab that shield, and now we're just going to match shields back. We're going to overfarm here, but they have a Dusk Noir in the back. They try and get the snipe down. They do make it to a potential dynamic punch here, so I will respect it. It is the Shadow, and they bait me with a Shadow Punch. But at this point, I may as well just full send the crunch. I could go for an undercharge here, but it would be risky because Poison Sting is resisted. So I just full charge it. They let it go. They grabbed that shield. They did exactly what they wanted to. And now they're going to come in and punish with their Tinkaton. No, they're in fact going to punish with a Sableye. But Sableye does not have a good matchup here because Shadow Claw and Foul Play are resisted. They have to make it to a Dazzling Gleam to do any effective damage. So I'm just going to stay in this matchup, force them to throw their energy pretty much as soon as they get it. Ooh, they're on Power Gem. Interesting. But that does mean that they're completely walled by our own Tinkaton. And unfortunately for my opponent, even though they try and play to a CMP tie, I did not throw because I knew I do not need to waste energy on this thing. And now I just have to make it to back-to-back Bulldozes. Here comes number one. Is my opponent going to shield this, or do they realize I'm a back-to-back? They realize I'm a back-to-back, so they just let that go. And we're able to take the first win. Okay, Quagsire into Skeleturge. This is a fantastic lead as well. And they come in with a Credilli. We have a fantastic answer in Tinkaton. This is one of the few matchups where it's actually worse not having the whatever it's called, the steel type move that isn't Iron Head. It's Heavy Slam. There it is. Had to dig deep for that one, but it takes 2 charge moves to KO either way. So I mean, all their charge moves are resisted here. If they went for double Rock Tomb, then maybe the second one wouldn't KO. But look, I can overfarm here. They're pretty deep in the yellow at this point, so this is definitely going to KO even with the single debuff, and it does. And because we're running Bulldoze, we actually are able to make it to a Bulldoze as well against the Skeleturge. So I'm going to make an interesting play here is I'm going to instantly pivot into my Drapion. Why? Because I can actually make it to an Aqua Tail before they even make it to their first charge move. And because my opponent, it felt like a bait out for the Credilli. And it looks like I'm going to be able to get a full Poison Sting farm down, commit 1 shield, and come out loaded with energy. And that's exactly what's going to happen. What is that Pokemon in the back? It's a Dragonite, and yeah, Dragonite is not 1v3ing, especially when one of our Pokemon is a Fairy Steel. Speaking of Dragonite, we've got Dragonite on the lead in the next match. This is a bad lead, so we're going to get into our Drapion here. We're going to build up to the crunch and then bait with an Aqua Tail. May as well save the extra Poison Sting of energy. My opponent is 100% going to shield this, and they do. That doesn't help me to pace any better here. Like, I still will only make it to one more charge move, so I may as well full send the crunch here. My opponent makes a really nice catch, but they catch onto a Lapras, which is an interesting play because Lapras has resisted side waves here. I actually get the defense drop, and I'm able to make it to another crunch. Is this crunch going to be enough damage to KO the Lapras from this range? It is. So we actually just flipped switch against the Lapras. They lose all of that energy, and Drapion on like 5 HP just flipped that matchup, which is insane. Now we just align our Tinkaton against the Dragonite. Look at these Dragon Breaths. They're literally doing no damage. That is crazy. I mean, it's triple resisted, so it makes sense. They full send a superpower. We get the Fairy Wind farm down. Whatever was in back, my opponent did not want to see with the loaded Tinkaton, so they just resigned the match. Lapras on the lead in the next match. This is a okay lead. Obviously, they pace just a little bit quicker here, so they're going to get to the Sparkling Aria first. However, it now becomes a bait game, because if I bait with an Aqua Tail, then I can actually outpace and make it to a Stone Edge. But I'm hoping my opponent realizes this and hope they call the bait, and they do, which allows me to connect with a Stone Edge. It's still not quite enough to KO because Lapras is that bulky, but I am able to get to the Aqua Tail on the CMP tie and KO the Lapras. It's a jump left in the back, so we're going to instantly pivot here into our Drapion. I'm going to use a shield because they do have enough for the acrobatics here, and they bait me with an Aerial Ace, which is a really nice play. However, I can overfarm here, go for the crunch on what would be one before they make it to their next, or actually they would have been CMP, so I guess they overfarmed. They continue to overfarm, which allows me to get to another crunch. Maybe they lost track of my energy. This one connects, which means I am totally fine letting this one go. I have Tinkaton in the back that can eat any charge move here, and they once again bait with the Aerial Ace. So at this point, I'm going to catch the next Aerial Ace onto my Quagsire, and I'm going to save Drapion energy, because now I'm thinking you're weak to Drapion in the back if you're staying in there. But now I'm going to come in with my own Tinkaton, and they actually have Drapion of their own in the back, so maybe they just didn't want to come in down energy. But we're running Bulldoze, and this Drapion has absolutely nowhere to go because they'd have to just go for Aqua Tails, and they have no ability to farm down, so they just resigned that match. Jump off again, but this time it's on the lead, so we're going to get instantly out into our Drapion here, and we lure out a Quagsire. Now this is tough. We have a terrible lead and a terrible switch, but one thing about this is that Drapion can always grab shields, even in a negative matchup. This thing is an absolute beast. So we actually get the defense drop on the first, which means we can just go straight Aqua Tail at this point. And I did overfarm and play to the CMP tie, but I want both shields, because if I can get both shields, then I can connect with a Stone Edge if I get the farm down of their Quagsire. And if they don't want to give me that farm down and they switch into their jump bluff, then I have alignment with Tinkaton in the back. So it's a win-win situation. My opponent doesn't want to give me two shields because they potentially realize that they don't want to take a Stone Edge from the Quagsire. But that lets me flip switch. I now am down shields, but I can make it to a crunch against this jump bluff. And even if they go for the full farm down here, which they can't even do because I'd make it to another crunch, they're forced out of their energy, and now we have alignment here. And Aerial Ace, Acrobatics, Energy Ball, it's all resisted. And they have a Blastoise in the back. Now this is still not going to be an easy game, because Blastoise can easily KO with two Hydro Cannons here. So I have to make a smart play here. I'm going to overfarm slightly, go for the Stone Edge. I expect my opponent to shield this, so maybe I should have baited to force their energy. But they throw right away anyways. Maybe just not wanting to take any extra mud shots because they know one player off is probably not enough to KO. And this is rough because I'm going to have to take a Hydro here. Let's see how much damage this Hydro does. It does about 40%, and then they try and go for a catch. So I'm just going to overfarm, play the CMP tie with a play rough here. I have to let this go. I have no shields, but it shouldn't be enough to KO whatever it is. It is the acrobatics, but that play rough put them in perfect Fairy Wind farm down range. I'm one away from the play rough. Is the play rough enough to KO the Blastoise from this range? It's not, but one more Fairy Wind will take the cake, and that rollout does not go through, so we are able to take the win. Okay, Sableye on the lead. How are we going to play this one out? We're going to stay in at first, and I'm going to overfarm here and then catch on 7 because that is when they would make it to a Dazzling Gleam, but obviously they're going to bait. And they go for the foul play, so we catch a resisted foul play. However, that doesn't mean that they won't try and catch for themselves. I realized that they were going to do this, so I actually hold on to my energy. I don't know if you saw me wait the turn there with the Drapion, but they have a fantastic answer in Azumarill in the back, so now all of my energy is going to go to waste because Crunches, Aqua Tails, it's all resisted, but what they can't resist are these poison stings, and these poison stings are really adding up, and this pacing advantage on Drapion is insane. We got 2 defense drops, which means now we can make it to back-to-back Aqua Tails. If my opponent wants to keep Switch, they're going to have to double shield, and they do not want to do that, so they're going to give me Switch. Now I can get a Crunch off onto the Sableye as well. I'm actually going to grab a shield and get the defense drop once again, and we have alignment. Everything that the Sableye learns is resisted: Power Gem, Foul Play, Play Rough, Return, Dazzling Gleam, and they have a Typhlosion in the back. This is only enough for a Thunder Punch, but it would hurt, and I'm not really willing to take that damage because I don't want to be put in 1 Incinerate farm down range. I get a huge lag spike there, but I'm still able to make it to an Aqua Tail, KO the Typhlosion. I go for the Aqua Tail as soon as the Sableye comes back in because that forces them to either throw on CMP or just let this go. My opponent just lets it go because they no longer have a win con. So I am able to take that matchup into the next match. Another Jump Love. You've got to be kidding me. I run Quagsire for 1 day and I get Jump Love leads. It's crazy. Unfortunate alignment, but it looks like it's going to be the same team. So maybe a content creator put out this team. That's my guess. It's a pretty simple team when you think about it. If you're going to build with Jump Love, have 2 answers to its weaknesses in the back. So we've got a Quagsire safe switch once again into our Drapion. We don't get the defense drop this time, but I'm still confident that I can grab a shield with my Aqua Tail, and I do, and it's once again on CMP, so I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to overfarm here. I'm going to play the CMP tie on their next Aqua Tail as well, and that lets me overfarm so much that they can't even go for an undercharge really if they want to get this knockout, and they do. So here is a CMP tie. We have grabbed both shields, so now we're going to see the opposite situation where I'm going to come in with my Quagsire. I'm going to get 1 turn lag because that's a feature in this game, but it shouldn't matter in the grand scheme of things in this matchup at least, because I'm still going to get the farm down. They're not going to get to 2 moves, so that's okay. I'm going to overfarm slightly here, throw the Stone Edge right before they make it to the Aerial Ace, and this will do significant chip, and now I'm instantly going to get out into Tinkaton, hoping I can waste their energy, but I don't, and they actually come in with Blastoise in the back. So it's literally the exact same team, but this is okay because we can connect with a Play Rough. Even 2 Hydras we've seen aren't enough to KO, and it looks like 2 Play Roughs are enough to KO, and their rollouts are resisted, so they have no ability to farm down, which is absolutely fantastic for us because what that means is we can take 2 Hydras, the bulk on Tinkaton coming in clutch here, able to make it to a second Play Rough, overfarming as much as we possibly can. That connects. I'm going to go for a Fairy Wind and then come in with my Quagsire. They instantly react. This forces them to throw their energy. It is the Energy Ball. My opponent's still on Energy Ball, but guess what? Fairy Wind is resisted, and Tinkaton is so bulky that it makes it to the Play Rough, and we were able to take that win. Into the next match, we've got Quagsire into Talonflame. So this is a pretty great lead. We are going to overfarm all the way up to the Stone Edge, and now we're going to bait with an Aqua Tail. Yes, this is a bait because Stone Edge would one-shot and Aqua Tail would only put them low. It wouldn't be enough to KO. I accidentally dropped my phone there. I don't know what happened there. But we do shield back a fly, and now I'm just going to go for the Aqua Tail because I want to get this damage in. And they actually no shield, so what I'm going to do is a little bit crazy, but I'm going to come in with my Tinkaton to try and catch a fly, but my opponent switches at the exact same time. They come in with a Gastrodon, so this is pretty unfortunate, but we are able to connect with the Play Rough, and this forces them to throw their energy right away, which is pretty nice. In comes the Earth Power. That is definitely going to KO. I'm going to get 1 turn lag as I come in, and I don't realize that, I guess I do realize that at the time because I don't throw when I could have on 4, but now I can connect with an Aqua Tail, and I have an Aqua Tail loaded, so if my opponent wants to come in with a Talonflame, they're going to have to instantly throw their energy, but they don't. They have a Primeape in the back, which unfortunately means this game is over. All they have to do is full send the close combat, and they did farm up to it because, yeah, so this game is over. I'm just going to no shield. But they bait They bait with a Rage Fist, and now I'm back in this game. All they had to do was full send to close combat because they either take me out or grab my final shield, and they have a charge move loaded on their Talonflame, which would KO the Drapion, so they could just snipe, and they go for another Rage Fist. What is my opponent doing? Now they come back in with the Talonflame. I throw one in the move so that I don't take the Incinerate damage. We KO with the Aqua Tail, and now they're so low that they can't get to another charge move, so they just resign the match. Wow. Talk about understanding your win conditions. If you can identify win conditions, it pays dividends, because my opponent did not, and it completely cost them that last match. Either way, we've got an Azumarill lead in the next match, which is unfortunate because, well, it's not unfortunate because we would like to see this on our Tinkaton, but it's not the end of the world that it's not, because we can overfarm here and go for another Stone Edge. And if we grab this shield, then all we have to do is soak up this energy on Tinkaton, or if they let that go and it doesn't KO, then we can just come in with Drapion and Poison Sting the rest down. So either way, it's a pretty good situation. I do connect with an Aqua Tail. They actually bank that energy and then come with their Tinkaton of their own, but I do have one Fairy Wind advantage here because my opponent used their switch, which means they got one turn on the switch, which is how it's supposed to work if you're just switching and not after throwing a charge move or not after your Pokemon KOs, so, or gets KO'd. So I'm always going to outpace as long as I press the move as soon as I get to it. So you're going to see that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm always just going to match shields in this matchup because we've already grabbed a shield from my opponent. So if my opponent wants to, they could just let this go, and they do, and it's a Steelix in the back. Now this is going to be really tough because I have a Drapion which has triple resisted Poison Sting. So I'm going to connect with a Bulldoze. I'm going to overfarm here. I'm going to play to a potential CMP tie with the Earthquake, but my opponent makes a really nice catch onto their Azumarill. But then they shield because they realize they want to get off this energy that they banked. So they want to grab a shield back, and they do, but that allows me to get a Poison Sting farm down, and now I come out loaded with energy. They still have an Earthquake loaded, or a potential Earthquake loaded. They farmed up to it, so I'm going to respect it, and it is the Earthquake, so that's a huge shield, and my opponent knows by shielding that, they no longer have a win con, so they just resign the match. But yeah, that is Tinkaton once again with the new move of Bulldoze. Well, it's not a new move. It came out with Bulldoze, but I think it's an improved move set on Tinkaton. I'm going to be completely honest. Someone in my comments, sorry if I'm blanking on the name right now, but they were kind of like, why aren't you using Tinkaton with Bulldoze? It wins more matchups in the zeros, the ones, and the two shield scenario. Just look at it. Like, sim it on PV Poke. Look what it can do. And I did, and because I have a good IV one too, I mean, it makes a huge difference. And if you get these debuffs, I mean, you've got two Pokemon in the back with a similar weakness in ground, one that you want to use to bait it out. Both of them can lower the defense of your opponent, and then Quagsire can get a farm down. Like, it's such great synergy. Another team that you could run with, or another Pokemon you could run with this backline is Drifblim. Drifblim has a lot of similar play into the weaknesses of the back two Pokemon that Quagsire does. I ran it with Drifblim and I didn't love it, so I could include those as bonus battles in a future video, but I enjoy Quagsire more, so I just decided to run it, and I thought it was pretty good into the current meta. So yeah, I mean, obviously if you see something like a Poliwrath or a Paldean Tauros, both of your front two Pokemon are walled, so I mean, that's pretty much game over, but your Pokemon in the back would do well against that. So, but yeah, that's going to be it for me from this video. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, peace.